Hi there. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing fine wherever you are today. This is Eugene Stories here with another series, with another video. Look, as the saying goes, we left the church, not God. That's what the Gen Z are now saying. And you ask yourself, why are we seeing large number of people leaving the church, going out there, starting to practice what they call freedom? Because I've been seeing a lot of Gen Zs not going to the church, saying that church is not important. I mean, you might ask yourself, what's wrong? What's happening with our society? Is that what we call woke or something? Or are we living in a society where people are practicing their freedom and people are not seeing the use of, going to church? So you might want to ask yourself. And so with that curiosity, I tried to look online, find out why are we having a lot of Gen Z, especially Gen Z women, leaving church. And so there are a couple of videos that I want us to watch that will validate and we'll get to hear their opinions in regards to what they say about this, because getting people's opinion, it's important, and that's something that we need to do. So let's dive right into the video. I'll be back with my commentary, and if you're watching this video for the first time, I know it's a different series, but if you're watching this video for the first time, I'll most definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel. And if you feel like you want to support me, you can check my Cash App. It's on my bio. Until then, let's dive right into the video. I'll be back with my commentary. As usual, this is your presenter, Jintuk Stories. Give it a like, thumbs up, and then boom, let's get into it.
You can go to church and hear an amazing sermon, but what is going to impact people the most is always watching others live a life that God preaches. And one time I remember I was in church and one of my dad's friends came to me and was like, I can tell when you take the communion, you do not have God in your heart. Brother, lock your eye and pray, because I couldn't understand why you're watching me take the communion when you're supposed to be doing your own thing. And try being pregnant without being married. Obviously not conventional due to faith. I understand that. But being judged and looked at like, from women who have 3 baby fathers. This is why a lot of the generation, and I've had this conversation over and over with tons of people, they're like, I'm just so turned off by the church. Like, I believe in God. I believe in faith. I just can't mess with religion. People aren't having the right ways to indoctrinate people to want to come there, because you're just judgy. The people in the church turn so much people away from coming to church. And I feel like, especially a lot of the older generation, they do not realize that. Like, because them say, oh, we go to church every Sunday, but by the time you're in the parking lot, you're there on the phone with your brethren, suing about this gossip and this body, this, like, live an exemplary life, okay? What is going to impact people more is showing them that you live a life of what God preaches more than just telling them what God says.
I knew the church just wasn't for me when I was like 8 or 9, because they were talking about sexual purity in this little Bible study group that we had, and they were talking about like deflowering and getting our period, and everybody else supposed to be, getting the word, you know what I mean, like making it all religious. Bitch, my ass was like, okay, get your period. I'm bring out the notebooks. I'm gonna write this shit down. My mama was in a different state. I couldn't call her ass all the time. I'm thinking I was gonna get my period at any fucking waking moment. I'm like, so you use tampons or pads? And the group leaders was looking at me like, girl, let's focus on the word of God. And I'm like, right, but you was talking about periods and shit, so do you use tampons or pads? And like, well, it's not trying to get in the study right now. And I was like, no, I think it's pretty, necessary. Do you use tampons or pads? Child, they was sick of me. They was like, maybe you shouldn't come back anymore. And that's the first time I feel like it was a cult. And that's the first time I realized that church just wasn't for me.
Are young people leaving the church, do you guys think?
Why would they want to stay? Due to the culture of Christianity in 2023, where literally most people who go to church, and I mean Gen Z people, Monday to Saturday, do whatever they want, whenever they want, and however they like it, living a life of sin, and they come on Sunday, and they put their hands up, like, singing Hosanna in the highest or whatnot, and they pray to God, saying, you know what, God, like, I'm sorry, I know you're a forgiving, loving, merciful God, and abusing God's kindness, abusing God's grace, and just, living the cycle over and over again, where literally you're striving for the bare minimum for a free ticket to heaven, where you go to church service, where you don't even remember the service, it's just boring or whatnot, you just go there to be part of friends or part of a community, based on the culture of the church today. why would you want to stay? I'm not saying, oh, I have a problem who do that. I'm just saying I have a problem who don't follow the Bible, yet claim to say that they are, following the Bible, and look at guys like me and point and say, and judge me and say I'm the bad person, and they're like, I'm a sinner. Well, if your life is no different than mine, except the fact that you just go to church.
Why? Goodness, but can we talk about this? The way I used to be absolutely petrified of death when I was a Christian, because they taught us that any sin that you don't ask for forgiveness for will stay like on your record or whatever. Like God keeps track of all the sins you don't ask for forgiveness for. And since fucking everything is a sin to Christians, basically what I would do is I would just spend every single day of my life asking God for forgiveness for whatever the fuck I did, because I didn't know if I sinned that day or not. And so I was like, if I die and I've sinned and I didn't ask for forgiveness because I didn't even know that I sinned, I'm gonna burn in hell. Which, by the way, I've never gotten an answer from Christians on how a spirit can burn, but all right. But once I left, I realized that once we die, it's just nothing. Nothing happens. We die, and that is it. That scares some people, but for me, coming from Christianity, that gives me a lot of relief. Because you realize that nothing fucking matters. Live your life on earth, enjoy the life that you have, because there's nothing else after this. It made me want to live instead of sitting here just worried about, oh my God, I'm sinning. What if I die and I end up burning in hell for all of eternity? Once I left, all of that shit went out the window. That is what I mean when I say I am so much happier now that I am not a Christian. Because for the first time in my life, I'm living for me. Instead of this being that I can't see, can't hear, know absolutely nothing about aside from the book that I've read that is painting it as a horrible individual. Christianity teaches you that living for yourself instead of living for God is a sin, and it's like selfish and it's going against God and all of that shit. Fuck that. I'm gonna go and have a grand old life, and when I die, nothing's gonna fucking happen. And if it does, if it just so happens that I'm completely wrong and this Christianity bullshit is actually right, I'll go to hell. Gladly, I will go to hell, and I will be so happy there because I won't be surrounded by Christians and I won't be forced to praise God for all of eternity. I have never spoken publicly about why I left the Mormon Church. The reason why I've never made this video is complicated, as you'll see. So just for some backstory, I grew up Mormon. When I was an infant, around like a month or 2 months old, I was adopted and I was placed for adoption through LDS Family Services, which is like the Mormon adoption agency. My mom and dad, who are also Black, adopted me. My mom grew up Catholic and my dad grew up Baptist, but like 10 years before they adopted me, they converted to the Mormon Church. And so from the moment I was born, I was Mormon. My entire life, we went to church every single Sunday for 3 hours. I went to Bible study at like 5:45 a.m. every single morning in a high school. And when I was a teenager, my dad became the bishop of our area. And bishops are kind of just like preachers, pastors in the Mormon Church, the whole 9 yards. By the time I was like 13, 14, I was sniffing the bullshit. I was like, this makes no sense. You're telling me that Joseph Smith, a little teenage boy, like found these gold plates. Like, I would say that I never truly believed in it. I didn't really have a testimony that the church was true. What truly sealed the knot for me is in the LDS Church, they say that families are forever, and the whole premise on temples is that like families are sealed together and that you as a Mormon have to be married in the temple to be with your family forever. And that concept I could not get on board with. And I had firsthand experience with it because I was sealed to my family in the temple. I refuse to believe, no one in their right mind can say a loving God will only let families be together if they're sealed in the temple. You're telling me the tens of millions, the billions of other families, that they're not all going to be together in heaven because they didn't get sealed in the temple? You're telling me that if I get married and I am not sealed in the temple, that I can't be with my spouse forever? That's horseshit. That really prompted a whole bunch of investigation on my part and in myself of like, this isn't true. And even though I knew the church wasn't true, socially, my family was still Mormon. A lot of my friends were still Mormons. I ended up marrying my husband when I was 18 years old, which is very Mormon of me, I know. and he's not Mormon, which is wild. I don't know why we got married so young. But I married my husband when we were 18 years old, and we would go to church sometimes with my parents. You could say that we were inactive, but I still wasn't 100% opposed to Mormonism. I didn't fully become opposed to Mormonism until I was 20 years old and I had my first child. And just the thought of sending my kid to church blew my mind. It is impossible for me as a mother who ultimately wants the best thing in life for my child to raise her Mormon. It's not going to happen. I refuse to let her grow up in an organization that is as toxic as it could be, an organization where I personally believe that women are oppressed. I refuse to let my child hear the conversations about virtue and purity. And yeah, so thinking about my kids being Mormon absolutely sealed the deal for me. In no way as a mom could I ever in good faith raise my children Mormon, and that's when I instantly knew that Mormonism was wrong. And the reason that I've been hesitant to talk about this on social media is because I by no means have hard feelings to people who are Mormon. I don't have hard feelings towards the Mormon Church in general. There's a lot of good that comes out of religion, even though there's also a lot of bad. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts. And if you want more about being Black in Mormonism, that's a whole separate other video.
I don't know what people scare me. Like those highly religious people, the people that be all about the Bible and church and all that. Y'all scare me. And I'm going to tell y'all why I'm saying this. And let me know if it's just me. But the people that claim they live by the Bible, word for word, go to church faithfully, just live by the book. When I tell y'all, you can't trust every person like that, because those same people, and I've seen it with my own eyes, literally, you don't know what God they praying to. The ones that just live by the Bible. Sometimes, they say take from the Bible what you want to take from it and interpret it how you see fit. That's what a lot of people say about the Bible, because everybody look at it different. And a lot of people can flip that into something that's just insane. That is just, they create things in their own minds of what they think the Bible means, which can sometimes make them be evil, make them be nasty. Just you just don't know what it is people truly believe in. And they be the main ones that's in church. I'm telling y'all this. I've literally had a Christian family on one side of my family. And when I tell y'all, God strike me right now, if I'm lying, they were evil, nasty, hypocrites. The church was fake. It was a lot of stuff. That's why I personally go. But when I see people who are extremely religious, I run. No, I believe in God, and that's enough. Because some of y'all get creepy with the church. The pastors be judgmental and doing things they shouldn't be doing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's terrible. If you just stay away from me. Stay away from me.
So with the content that I have been posting recently, I felt like it was appropriate to do a story time on why I left the church. So it was 2016, and I had recently bought a house but that was 45 minutes away from my church. So I tried to go, but I didn't go as often as I should have went. I was in the ministry and everything, in the healthcare ministry and everything, me and my husband. So I was just trying to really get into the word more. To supplement my absence from church. So I was an ICU nurse. It was 2016, and it was a night shift that I was working, and it was really slow that night. And in my patient's room, I usually have the TV turned up, and I was watching from the outside, and they were talking about what was going on in Israel. So there was a respiratory therapist that was with me, and then I had said to her what's going on in Israel, I'm just so glad America is aligning with Israel, because, God blesses those who blesses Israel. She looked at me like I was crazy. She looked at me and was like, you really think that those are the true Israelites? And you think what they're doing to those Palestinians is right? I told her, I was like, listen, these are the chosen people, honey. And if you disagree with them, I'm telling you, you will be cursed. God says that he blesses those who bless Israel, and will curse those who curse Israel. And I saw a look of pity on her face, and she was just like, okay. She didn't argue with me or anything like that. She just let me be a fool. So I went home, and I really started to question what she was talking about. I was thinking about it all night. Then I started to do my own research. I was reading the Bible, and I was doing my own research on the Israelites and everything like that. So I came across this video that was talking about how blacks are the true Israelites, and gave a lot of different scriptures in order to prove this. So I took it. Like, I was like, oh, well, this must be it. So it literally changed my whole way of thinking. But I was still in the church. But as I was in the church, I was starting to question all of the things that I had so readily accepted and excused a lot of issues away as God's will. And I started to get really upset with myself because I knew what Israel was doing to Palestine was wrong. But I ignored those feelings, that intuition in my heart, in my gut, and I proceeded. And despite the wrong human injustices that were going on and are still going on, I still chose to support because I thought that that was God's will. Then I started to look at the things that I was excusing away in the ministry that I was in. I started to know a little bit too much that I was supposed to know. I started to realize how much people were getting paid and how the pastor's father was getting a 6-figure salary, but I just excused it all away. Then I started to remember how Israel in the Bible wrestled with God and it was counted to him as righteousness. So I started to do my wrestling and tussling with God, and I started to really dig into the Apocrypha and different scriptures. And my conclusion was I had Stockholm Syndrome. I was siding with a system of oppression.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but on behalf of those of us that have deconstructed, are deconstructing from a high control religion, we didn't leave because of church hurt. The assumption is that we're leaving because of church hurt. Y'all, if we were leaving because of church hurt, we would have left a long time ago. I personally would have left 2 decades ago, plus, and then some. Y'all, I have so many freaking church hurt stories. If that was the reason I left, I would have left a long time ago. No, we are leaving because things aren't adding up. We're using critical thinking. We've read the Bible from cover to cover without the shame goggles the church hands out. Oh, and we're doing research, and shit unravels real quick, so.
Why the Lord called me out of the Catholic faith? That's a great question, because the Catholic religion, not the Catholic people, because I'm not coming against the people. You know, if you love Jesus, you love Jesus. Your relationship with Jesus, it's up to Jesus. He knows your heart. I'm not judging. But the reason I left the Catholic faith is because they have traditions of man, not traditions of God. And by that I mean nowhere in the Bible does it say to worship and pray to the Virgin Mary. She is not sinless. Okay, she had other children. It's very biblical. You can look it up in the Bible if you need Bible verses. I can share those with you. Matter of fact, I might just put them up here. Second, she did not remain a virgin, like I said. Joseph knew her, which means he consummated the marriage after Jesus' birth. Okay, so, and it clearly states in the Bible that he had siblings. Also, we are not to pray to saints. Why? Because that was before Old Covenant, when God placed priests to make an atonement for us, okay? And we would go to the priest and they would make an atonement for us. That's Old Testament. New Testament, Jesus was made an atonement for us. So we have a direct path to the Lord Jesus Christ for prayers. I do not have to go to a priest to pray, to ask for the forgiveness of my sins, okay? I don't have to do that because I have a direct connection with God the Father, Abba. So another reason, plus if you look up witchcraft, Santeria is a worship of saints, and it is witchcraft. We are not to worship or idolize or dedicate our kids to saints. Also, the bread and wine, okay? Jesus, when he broke bread and gave the wine as a symbol of his sacrifice, his blood and the flesh that he sacrificed, or that he was going to sacrifice on the cross, right, as a symbol of remembrance of what he did on the cross, okay? The Catholic faith does not allow you to do it if you're not going by the rules. Like if you're not married by the church, or if you haven't taken confession, or if you haven't done your communion, they don't allow you to do that. And Jesus never said that. Jesus even gave the bread and wine to Judas, knowing that he would betray him. And at the moment that he gave him the first morsel, by the way, the devil entered into him, and he went and did what he went to go do, betray Jesus. And so for the Catholic Church to deny the bread and wine to people, if people come and take the bread and wine and they have sin, that's up to them. God is going to deal with them. But it's not up to the church to say you can have the bread and wine, but you can't. Jesus never did that. Jesus wants everyone to partake in that. Anyways, those are just a few things If you have any questions, you can message me. God bless.
Hello, Irimo here, and today I'm going to give you my reasons, or rather, the major reason as to why I left church, and especially Catholic Church, all religions in general. All right. So it was there was a time we were going to Subukia. You know the way they say you see Mother Mary nini nini. And this video does not resonate with everybody. If you're emotional, if you think with your heart inside of your head, just scroll. All right. I need open-minded people. I need my people. I need those people who have opened their mind like I did. All right. So we were going to Subukia, and ilikuwa ya wamama wa CWA nini nini. So nikaingizwa hapo ndani, twende tuone Mother Mary nini nini. Haya, hiyo siku tulikuwa tunatoka asubuhi na mapema because it's a distance. Haya, so because everybody wamama wote si unajua wamama mpa hizi mango za CWA, and I was the only one, the kaledi wenye hana hizo mango. All right. But mkubwa huyu mama wa CWA, I'm telling you, Christians are most hypocrite, sijui ndasema nini, hypocrites. They're the most hypocrites people you'll ever meet. Because she started sizing me like, wewe ni wanani? Unaenda wapi? And I'm telling, I'm not kidding. No, ni mama wa kanisa. Kwanza mkubwa. Unaenda wapi? Umelipia? Yeah. And then she was sizing me like, you're not supposed to be in this bus. You know, unaweza sema yeye ndio ameshika fungu za binguni. Haya, si tukaenda. And yeah, nini wakaanza kusema wameona. But from my personal experience, I didn't see. To be honest, I didn't see. I didn't see kuona anything venye wanasema waliona Mother Mary. Well, naongea from my experience, alright? Maybe
one of the biggest reasons why people are leaving the church is due to leadership preaching false doctrine. And this is a huge contributing factor to church hurt. I find it funny how leadership within the church, when it comes to the topic of church hurt, they talk about things like gossip, or, you know, pastors misusing funds, or pastors saying something that offends somebody and then they leave. They're able to take accountability for these things happening, but when it comes to taking accountability for false doctrine being preached, that's a different story. And the thing is that people are catching on. People are going home and reading their word and realizing that this false doctrine is being preached. So those people leave the church. And instead of leadership taking accountability, they shun those people who left the church, and they make them look like the bad guy, if you will. You know, and the thing about preaching false doctrine is that there's no power in it. This is why the church has lost a lot of its power, which is another reason why people are leaving. I feel like leadership should really listen to what the people are saying instead of dissing and dismissing everybody as if the only way they're able to have a revelation is through the pastor. Leadership should listen to the people, and maybe they'll realize why people are leaving the church.
A lot of churches use manipulation to control people. I'm sorry. And that's a problem. Whoever it is that's listening and they feel like that's their church, that's between you and the Lord. I'm not calling and pinpointing no church specifically. I'm saying there are a lot of churches that do that. And because of that, people use that as a reason to be mad at God or to be mad at the church. And then they say, well, I ain't going because of XYZ. Because genuinely, love is God. God is love.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, you cannot have love without including God. So in no facet, he said he's agape. That means unconditional. But we have conditional love.
Many people get hurt at the church, bad experience at the church, toxic leadership, abusive leadership. And so what the devil wants to do is he wants you to completely walk away from the church instead of walk away from that church. When you got hurt, or maybe you had a bad experience, I want to challenge you this year. Get over that, release that, and give the church. Find a different church where you can be planted. Don't let the enemy win by making you say stay away from the church of Jesus Christ because you got hurt at a church of Jesus Christ. Just because you had a bad experience, you might walk away from that place. But at the same time, trust in Jesus, and I want you to try to give the church of Jesus Christ another chance being planted in God's house.
So these are different people from different places that are trying to share their sentiments in regards to what they think why they left church. And I hope that this is right to everyone, right? So it's true that there is a trend that Gen Z women are leaving church today, and this is multi-faced by different issues like social, cultural, and ideological shifts which are happening. And there can be several contributors, and I tried to look at it online to try find something that I can say, or trying to do some research in regards to this, because this is something which is happening in our community, right? And we are seeing people leaving the church, especially the Gen Z women, regardless of race. This is something that is happening to different groups of people. Now, the first thing that I found was rise of individualism and secularization, personal autonomy. Now, Gen Z women, like much of their generation, value individual autonomy over institutional loyalty. Many no longer see organized religion as the real path to spiritual or morality. They seek meaning outside traditional religious structures, exploring diverse spiritual practices that feel more personalized and less dogmatic. We've seen a couple different women trying to talk about spirituality, so it proves itself. Now, under the rise of individualism and secularization, we are also going to talk about secular society. The increasing secularization of society has reduced the influence of religious institutions. Public spaces, schools, and even family dynamics are often less centered on religious practices than in the previous generations. This gives Gen Z women more freedom to distance themselves from traditional religious communities without significant social repercussion. I'm also going to be addressing changing social norms and values. Of late, there have been different things talking about gender and LGBTQ issues. Churches, especially more conservative denominations, often struggle with progressive values regarding gender equality, sexual identity, and LGBTQ rights. Gen Z women tend to be more supportive of gender inclusive and LGBTQ rights. May feel that traditional churches are not evolving fast enough to embrace these laws, causing them to disengage from religious institutions that they see as rigid or exclusionary. I understand that most people praise and worship in the church, but they are afraid about saying what type of social gender that they belong to, because it is found that it is queer or something, so they don't want to share with people. And now that the church doesn't support this, they feel left out and they leave the church, right? So it was found that that was another reason. Also, another thing is feminism and empowerment. Many women in Gen Z are influenced by feminist thought, which critiques patriarchal structures, including those in religious settings. Some churches continue to uphold conservative views on women's role, which can feel outdated or oppressive to younger women who seek spaces where they are seen as equals and empowered in leadership. That explains itself, because it's traditional versus modernity, and feminism has come with modernity. We have modern women, they want to be seen as equals. There is no problem with that, but is your counterpart ready to accept that? That's another thing. Now, the fourth thing that I'm going to be talking about is digital life and access to information. Social media influence. The digital age allows Gen Z women to access a wide range of viewpoints, philosophies and belief systems outside the narrow confines of religious tradition. Social media platforms expose them to spiritual alternatives like mindfulness, meditation, and other forms of self-care, which offer similar benefits of pace and purpose without the institutional baggage. And I've been seeing this a lot seems that it's working for different people. So also, I'm going to be talking about, under digital life and access to information, I'm going to be talking about religious pluralism. Through the internet, younger people are more exposed to diverse religious and philosophical traditions, which make them more likely to question the idea that one religious tradition holds all the answer. This exposure to pluralism can lead to them leave their church in search of a more inclusive or universalist approach to spirituality. The fifth one that I'm going to be talking about is mental health and well-being focus. Gen Z women are highly attuned to mental health, self-care, and personal well-being. Some may feel that churches do not adequately address mental health issues or offer the kind of emotional support they need. Instead, they turn to secular therapies, wellness, communities, or even spiritual practices outside traditional religion to nurture their mental health. I'm also going to be talking about rejection of guilt-based religion. Many churches rely on guilt-based approaches, focusing on sin, punishment, and the need for salvation, which may alienate Gen Z women who prefer to be more compassionate and affirming approach to life. They seek spaces that prioritize healing and acceptance of a judgment and fear. The sixth thing that I'm going to be talking about is cultural shift. Spiritual, not religious. The idea of being spiritual but not religious has gained significant popularity. Gen Z women often prefer to develop their spiritual through non-traditional avenues, including yoga, mindfulness, astrology, environmentalism. These practices are often seen as more inclusive, flexible, and relevant to modern life compared to formal religious practices. Now, still under the same point, work life and belonging. Modern life pressures such as the demands of work, school, and social work also plays a role, and we need to recognize that. Churches may not offer a sense of community or flexibility that younger women are looking for, especially with the rise of more fluid lifestyle and digital communities. Social management, once tied to the church life, is often found in other secular or online spaces. I'm also going to be talking about shift in focus on social justice. Desire for action over doctrine. Gen Z as a whole is deeply committed to social justice causes, whether it's racial equality, climate action, gender rights. Many feel that traditional churches focus too much on theological doctrines and not enough to practice or to address societal ills. If they see church lagging in their commitment to issues like Black Lives Matter, feminism, or climatic justice, they may feel that the church is out of touch with their values. This is the question you might be asking yourself. Where is the world going? Right? You might be asking yourself that question. Now, this movement away from traditional religious institutions, especially amongst the Gen Z, points to broader transformation in society. The world is becoming more pluralistic and individualized, with greater emphasis on personal freedom, mental health, and social justice. Organized religion is being reshaped, with some faith communities adapting by becoming more progressive, inclusive, and socially engaged, while others risk becoming more isolated and insular. Now, the future of faith. We are witnessing a shift where faith and spirituality are more fluid and personalized. While the traditional churches may lose members, new forms of spiritual expression and community building are emerging, driven by shared values rather than formal religious adherence. The question for many religious institutions is whether they can adapt these changes or whether they will continue to lose younger generations to a more flexible, inclusive, and individualized spiritual practices. These represent agentic stories, and if you're watching this video for the first time again, I'll most definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel, join the membership, check out my Cash App account, and I'll be gladly happy if you say something in the comment section. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.